Hello, my beautiful people. I am so happy that you have joined me this day. My name is Kristen. I love books, so I just like to share some of the books that I've read each month. Well, all the books I've read each month, and just let you know which ones I liked, which ones I didn't. Maybe tell you a little bit about them, and maybe you'll find one that you want. I do have a goal to read more classics. I try to read one a month. I've been doing this for a couple of years, so I'm working my way through. I started with my classic this month first, and that was Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. And it was interesting because I just finished The Count of Monte Cristo, which was a fairly long book, so I wanted to pick a smaller classic this month to kind of, take a break from the long books. And this is probably the smallest, thinnest one I had, so I picked it up. And never read it before, didn't really know what it was about. The introduction, where it was written in 1897, was the first publication date, and it was written to a target audience of teenage boys. So I thought, over a century later, not a teenager anymore, not a boy. But, I'm not sad that I read this book. It was an enjoyable, quick read. I read it in about 2 sittings. It's easy. It does have the character Long John Silver. So all the references to Long John Silver and all of those kind of things. And this is very, very character driven. There's not a lot of action or a lot of drama going on. There's a little bit, but it is very character driven. And I enjoyed the read. I'm not sorry that I read it. So that was actually an enjoyable little classic. Then I wanted to go into the second book in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I think it's Stieg Larson. Is that how you say it? Or is it Steig? He has passed away, and I was reading in the intro that he wrote the third book, which I am now reading this month in April, The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. So then somebody else picked up the character and kept it going. So my question is, I haven't finished the book, and maybe I'll know that when I finish the third book, but if you've read these books, is it worth reading the one by the second author, or was the story kind of concluded? And I really, really appreciate the character Lisbeth Salander. She has had a lot of challenges and hardships, and in this book, she is trying to confront some of her past and kind of set things straight, and it's left with a big cliffhanger, so I immediately wanted to pick up the third book and start reading that, so that will be the first book that I read this month, which is now April. My nonfiction book that I picked up this month was Give and Take by Adam Grant, and this is a book that talks about the fact that we are kind of by nature either givers or takers, or we favor matching. And this means that if you're a matcher, then I do something and kind of expect that back, and I'm looking for fairness and equality, and that kind of pleases me, or that kind of drives me. If you're a giver, then you give more than you receive. You take pleasure and joy from the giving itself, not really looking out for getting a bunch in return. If you're a taker, your goal is to get more than you put out, to get a good deal, to be the person on top, and to kind of take pride in the fact that you've gotten basically a good deal of the bargain, energy-wise, cost-wise, whatever it is. And we all kind of have our natural styles. And it talks about the phenomena that givers, even though a lot of them are the very bottom, which you might expect, the good guys finish last, and you kind of end up at the bottom of the heap if you put yourself out there too much and you're giving away too much. And yet what they discovered is the very most successful people are almost all givers as well. So it talks about why that is, goes through a lot of stories. Sometimes I got lost in the stories with the basketball or investments or some things that maybe just aren't part of my world, but I understood the principle and appreciated that, and even give some tips on how, if you are a giver, you cannot be at the bottom, but you can be towards the top. And one of my favorite parts is that if you're a taker personality and then you try to implement, the giving, that's probably a good idea. But if you're doing it only to succeed and to take more by doing it, it probably won't work. So anyway, it was a difficult read, about 167 pages on that one. so interesting nonfiction book. The last book I read was by Ann Hood. It's called Off the Coast of Maine. It's a story predominantly about three women. It starts in 1985, it flashes back to 1969, and then concludes in 1985. Talks about these three women and then their children and what they've gone through. They're all kind of growing up in Maine during the 60s era. And what I appreciate about this book, this is not a light, beachy read that's happy, feel good. This talks about a lot of life, difficult issues, and when it ends, there is a note of hope, but it does not solve all the problems. You know the books I'm talking about, those books that we enjoyed having like at the beach or whatever, because you know at the end everybody's going to be happy, all the relationships are going to be healed, everybody's going to have money and going to ride off into the sunset. It's going to be beautiful. It's a happy feel good book. This is one of those real, more gritty kind of books, and I appreciate reading those too. So when you're in the mood for one of those kind of things, like you just want a little reality and you want some interesting characters that you actually do care about, I did appreciate and like this book, so I could recommend it to those people that are looking for that kind of experience. So if you have a favorite classic or you have a favorite book that is out, I have been kind of frugal in buying at the used bookstore and at the library sales and all that kind of stuff, so I'm behind on getting those current really good bestsellers, but give me a recommendation and I might bump it up in my TBR and try to get my hands on some more of the more recent ones. But these are the ones I'm reading now, and I look forward to reading more and sharing more and hearing from you. So y'all have a super blessed day.